Hi, I am Esley Wright. I am a Feng Shui designer, and I am happy to be here talking to you guys about the Chinese New Year for 2019. As we were already chit-chatting about, it is the year of the pig, and it is the year of the yin earth pig. So everybody, we were kind of chatting a little bit, but just to give an overview, the Chinese astrology, Chinese animals, dates back to the Han Dynasty. I think 302 BC, a long time ago. And they started it as a calendar, and it is a combination of astrology and natural forces as a way of best predicting what was going to happen in the future. And in my experience, obviously I'm a Western woman, and I've been studying Eastern things, so I have my feet in the Eastern world and the Western world. And the older I get, the more I'm putting more weight in my Eastern philosophies, because the more I'm actually recognizing there seems to be a lot of common sense about the way these things happen. And one of those is the fact that the Chinese New Year works on a lunar calendar, which happens sometime at the end of January to the end of February. And so it is different every year, which is totally different than the Western. Always, you have New Year's Eve on December 31st, and January 1st is a completely different experience. So then we have the Chinese New Year that changes every year because it's based on the lunar calendar. And what it is, which I always find so fascinating, is you have the winter solstice in December, and then you have the spring solstice in March, right? And the Chinese New Year is dead smack in the middle of those two states. So it is truly the spring festival. So from the Chinese New Year, you're starting to get closer to the spring solstice. So it is something that I find fascinating from my own personal experience is that in January, we really want to kind of go and do stuff. But according to Chinese, that's the last month you should be doing anything, because that's the dregs of the year. And it's why I think we find it so difficult to really get motivated in January. Personally, I spend January reviewing, planning, cutting, purging, cleaning, and then start everything with the Chinese New Year, because that seems to be in alignment with what the Chinese do and why I celebrate both, because you give me an excuse. I'm going to have 2 New Years and 2 bottles of champagne and the whole thing. But, the Chinese New Year is really one that I see as the beginning of the year for all my action that's going to be going to it. And does anybody want to tell me what their experience was last year? What was 2018 like for you? Tell me. Was it a good year?
I think for me it was a good year.
It was a good year.
Good for work. My son to college.
Nice.
That was a good move for us.
Yeah, that's a big change, yeah. So lots of change though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess I get in my time, some of my personal time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's always great. Time is so valuable. How about you?
I think it was a good year also. I don't think it was a great year. It just went by so quickly.
Did
for
you
me.
see that? Yeah.
That's how I felt about it. But I was constantly busy with lots of new things last year.
Okay,
Yeah,
so new
so from that
beginnings.
point of view, new is always good for me.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's how I feel. When I'm learning something new and I'm doing a new project, that's great.
Yep.
I prefer that than
New
finishing
beginnings.
things. I love
Yeah.
beginnings.
Yeah, okay. A lot of wood in there. What about you, darling? I think I know the answer to this one, but
It wasn't a
please.
great year.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was elating. It was a good year in that I was redoing my place, and then I got a work stop order for 6 months. So my sublet had already been up by the time that happened. So I was living out of a rolly bag for 6 months until I just moved back into my place in October.
Wow.
And it was
Yeah,
beautiful. I
that
mean,
sounds
it's amazing.
sounds
Lee
like
did an
a-
amazing job.
a
So that was
nightmare.
like
Yeah.
amazing to move back in. Amazing. So it was the worst and the best. Was the
Yeah,
best
it
of
was
times,
a
it was the
very,
worst of
it
times.
was, yeah, it was a very challenging year.
It was
So
a really
to me, there's a theme going on here. How about you? I think
It
I know
was-
about you too.
It was horrible.
For the monkeys.
Yeah, monkeys, yeah.
It was
It
horrible.
was a dog year.
It just escalated with the changes, and I wasn't sure why. I thought everything was fine, but it was just like a mass being covered. And it just like all of a sudden it shot out, and it was horrible. I
Yeah.
was like, that was the worst thing. And it went on and on. And now, as the year is ending for the Chinese New Year, I'm
You're feeling a shift.
the ship a little bit relieved.
Okay.
And hopefully the little piggy is
Well,
going to
yeah.
dance around me.
Well, we will get on to that.
Yeah,
It's interesting to hear how everybody's
yeah.
here. And for you,
I had a good year. I had a quite interesting year. I had lots of things going on.
yeah,
Yeah, I had a good year. At work, I had a good year.
nice. Okay. So this is fascinating to me. So we have, when we're talking about the Chinese New Year, we talk about that there is an animal, right? We've got 12 Chinese animals, and we've got 5 different elements. So there is a 12-year cycle and a bigger picture that is a 60-year cycle. So you will have, last year was the Yang dog year, the Yang Earth dog year, which is a very different experience than, for example, if it had been a Yin Earth dog, right? So last year also interacts, and every year's experiences depends on what your animal is and what your element is. And your element is based on the year in which you were born. So for example, born in 1966, full disclosure, I am a fire horse. I'm born in the year of the element of the fire, and my animal is a horse. So that will always know how I'm going to interact with the year based on that. And this year is the Yin Earth Pig, very different. And the thing that's so interesting is last year, everybody's experience is slightly different because of what you bring to it. But the general, I'm going to give you 5 things about this year, but I really wanted to kind of recap about last year. The predictions about last year from a global perspective, from what I did last February, came to be very true. One of them was obviously that there was going to be massive global shifts going on, and that the divide in social classes was going to start some global clashes that were going to be happening. We see that theme. And there was also going to be a lot of energetic changes, and because it was going to be an emotional year, the best way to navigate the year was to try not to let that over speed and challenges to, if you're overly sensitive, like I am, highly intuitive, empathic, last year was a very tough year. Not because I just couldn't manage it. Interestingly enough, you always give yourself, hindsight is 20/20. I recommended to everybody else to be very careful and to protect themselves, to make sure that the energy of the Yang Earth dog didn't bite you in the butt, but it did for me, and I had a difficult time getting out of it. But I have heard that it was a challenging year in general. Some people navigated it a little bit
No,
better.
it's not that the entire year was a great year. I had some things that were not.
Yeah. So
But
some
Everybody
years,
does. It can't-
every
it
year.
can't just
But
be-
it wasn't like her, like
Everything.
where she had a
Right.
nightmare going, and suddenly,
No.
you know.
yeah, she had something that
something
completely
close,
stopped
and
her.
That is huge.
Too interesting
I've
with the
been
2
there.
monkeys,
I've been there, I know.
right?
But Lee,
It was
why
rough.
did
It's like
you
a
say
nightmare.
last
It
year
was a
was an
nightmare.
emotional
Yeah.
year? I'm trying to think now, when you talk about a Yang Earth dog, what makes that emotional?
Well, the dog being a masculine yang.
Okay.
So there was a lot of masculine energy, a lot of movement going on, and a lot of possibility of a
Maybe
little bit of,
aggressiveness?
maybe a little bit of
More
aggressiveness.
than something emotional?
Well, it kind of depends, because an active dog doesn't necessarily have to be a bad active
Right.
dog, right?
No,
It
but
just can-
aggressive is not bad either.
Yes.
I mean, that's not.
yeah, but an aggressive dog is going to come across in a way that the people are probably going to be
Well, say
worried
that about an
that.
aggressive woman also.
Yes, exactly.
Let's stop that here.
Yes. So the energy of the yang earth dog was about being in a position of movement, lots of movement that was going to be going on. Hello, Barbara.
I didn't realize it was starting.
No, don't worry about it. So we have just been talking a little bit about just the energy of the Chinese New Year, Barbara, and we were just talking about last year. Could you tell me what 2018 was for you?
In general? Or
Yeah, was it a positive year? Was it a negative year? Did you have a lot of challenges? Was it
The year
sweet?
was last year.
I thought it was pretty refreshing and good going into 2019.
Great. And what's your Chinese animal?
I don't know.
Oh,
Mine in particular.
and we're gonna have to figure that one out for you. Fabulous.
I
Fabulous,
didn't
fabulous.
Google. Oh, you want me to Google what was sitting?
No, that's
No,
fine.
no,
We can do it.
I'm saying it's
But now aren't you dying of curiosity?
I should. I have my.
So the Chinese New Year is based on a couple different things, Barbara, we were saying, in regards to elements. You've got the fire, earth, metal, water, and, help me, what did I say? Wood.
Good.
Wood.
Right.
So we've got the 5 elements, and then we've got the 12 animals. So it's going to be that way. So last year we had it, and this year is the yin. So it's female. It's a totally different energy, yin and yang. Are we familiar with yin and yang? So it's a system or a philosophy of everything having to have a balancing in nature, right? And you have the dark and the light, the hot and the cold, the sun and the moon, masculine and the feminine, right? Happiness and sadness, everything has its light and its dark that matches it together. And there's a very strong energy of whether something's got a yin energy or a yang energy. And yin energy tends to be much slower. This is really important to know about going on. So we go from a yang year to a yin year. Big difference. But the interesting thing is we're going from an earth year to an earth year. Also interesting. And then we go from a dog, very specific animal, to a pig. Right? So let me tell you a little bit about a pig, right? And the Chinese, they have the 12 animals. They really do classify the energy and the characteristics of the animals in the year. So pigs tend to be nice and loyal, but they're a little bit lazy. Right? We've got a yin with a little bit of lazy. They like their routine, don't really care so much about their environment. They want their environment to be cozy. They're not into high-end luxury, which is very interesting as an interior designer, right? So, but they're loyal and they're generous. And they tend to be very lucky, right? And each animal also, and this, I'm giving this in the kind of most general, easy way because I'm going to give you 5 things to do for the year, but I find all the history of this totally fascinating. But pigs are also the water element. So we've got earth and we've got pig, right? So pig's nice and they're generous and they're loyal and they don't really want to do a whole bunch of work, but they can hang out a lot at home, but they don't really want to make their home that nice, but really cozy. So you have to realize that energy with the earth energy, which is all about stability, we got a big thing that is from me when I'm doing this analysis and preparing for this, which I do every year. You've got the pig and you've got the earth, and that's water and earth creates mud. So mud isn't so bad, but it's really not great, right? It can be problematic. So it's a great thing to be aware of. You've got the yin energy, which is slowing everything down, saying the transition. Everybody I know that's talking about January, going from last year, the yang energy to the yin energy, there's a big shift. We feel it because it's kind of like they're going really fast to really slow. And everybody's kind of nice with that, especially in New York City. Right? It's like a breath of fresh air to not be racing around like a chicken with your head cut off. So that's a great thing, but you have to manage it that you don't come to a screeching stop. So the first action that I feel really powerful about for 2019 is to stay in motion. make a plan, right? I am not saying to do the plan fast. I am saying it's best to have a plan and make steady steps going forward. The saying, a body in motion stays in motion, very, very true. Mud can become stagnant and really problematic if you do not have some movement. And the pig energy, the water of that, is not like a flowing river. It is it's more like an ocean. It's more like a lake. And you know, when you have the water that's stagnant can cause problems. So you just want to make sure that you keep some movement going on. The first half of 2019 is probably also going to be a little slower. We've come to a screeching halt, but you're going to have to keep some momentum. And as the year progresses, things will start to speed up and to happen. You're going to have to stay patient and keep doing things, even if you feel like you're not seeing the progress. Just don't stop. And that's quite an important thing. I feel this year is probably, if I have to say one thing that I would tell you to do this year, is that make a plan, stick to it, step by step, steady and true. It is a marathon, not a sprint. So really important to know. The second thing I feel when I was doing my analysis that I feel really is hugely important, starting with this year, is creating a sense of community, collectiveness and community. The Western world right now, with society and success and the way we do it, has become very focused on the individual. And that has some long-term negative repercussions. We are not designed to be solo beings. I'm not saying everybody has to get married. I'm not married, right? I'm not saying you have to have kids, because that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a community. I'm talking about making sure that you actually connect with your tribe. And that's also really important. I love New York. I was a New Yorker for a really long time, and I love the people in this room because you guys are my tribe. And if you don't know what that means, it means like-minded people. People who have similar ways of thinking, similar ways of approaching life, similar fundamental values and principles. We see the world in the same thing. Doesn't mean that we have anything else in common, but if you have that in common, that's your tribe. Those are the people that you need to be connecting with on a much richer level, and you really need to get rid of the ones that don't. We're coming into a global massive shift. You want to be surrounding yourself with the people that have got your back, right? And this community, we are so cool. Hello, community. We're not just physical community. We're like international community. I mean, I find this amazingly cool that I can actually talk to the world and say the Chinese New Year as the pig is actually something really fantastic and you need to be aware of it. And I'm not just talking to you guys in this room, but this is going to be something that my community that's getting to use technology is going to be able to use to their benefit. In 2019, find your tribe. Make it a priority to have a tribe. And it doesn't have to be huge, right? You know, you don't need 10,000. And I'm not talking about likes. I am not talking about having people like you or having friends on Facebook. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a really true, deep connection with a few people. Doesn't matter what your tribe is. But it's an important thing to make sure that that collective community is something that you are no longer trying to do it alone. And I also mean this personally as well as in business. We also try to do so many things in our business, solo entrepreneur. It is not the way of the future. And this year specifically, we want to have our little, I don't know, what do pigs call themselves when they are all together, you know? Like you have a flock of geese and you have a herd of pigs, right? But they are definitely, think about the pictures you see of pigs all together, right? They're all hanging out together in their muddy hut, right?
Pen of pigs.
Pen of pigs, exactly, in the pen of pigs. So it's about being together, right? So we've got,
Oh.
what was the first thing I told you we needed to do this year?
Stay in motion.
Yeah, and the second thing?
Create a sense of community,
Yeah.
surround by
Yeah.
people that have your back.
Perfect.
And values.
The third thing is about simplicity. You know, this one is kind of close to my heart. It's, the pigs don't really care about their homes so much, right? Like, they're not a luxury kind of beast, but they are extremely generous and they like their communities. They want their home to be really cozy, but they're all about function. So I feel that this year is the year to simplify your life. Make it simple. It's a great year to declutter, purge, get rid of all the things that don't serve you. This is a great year to do it. And I say that, you know, it's not easy. Our stuff has an energetic hold on us. We live in a society that totally makes us buy into the consumer process. It terrifies me. I had a young lady come visit me in Spain last year, and she went shopping a lot. And then she realized she had shopped too much, and she went to return it.
And she couldn't return it?
And she couldn't return it because in Spain,
It's
they don't do
different.
that. It's like, you can't return it. And, you know, it's like, oh, you can switch it for something. She was like, oh my God. And I realized that it was an activity for her to fill a void, that there was this kind of thing. Like when I was a kid, you know, you just went window shopping. You didn't actually physically go through the process of shopping, buying, bringing it home, trying it on, and then going and returning it. You just looked at it and just did nothing.
Yeah.
But that's too complicated. That's not fulfilling. That is like we say in Feng Shui, it's the hungry ghost. Your throat is going to become smaller, your mouth is going to become bigger, your stomach is going to be empty. You're never going to get fulfilled. So the more you simplify, purge the things that don't mean anything. Don't be afraid of having less. This is the year less is more, right? It's really, and this year, because it's the yin year, have the fact that you're slowing down instead of the yang year. And yang years are hard in a place like New York City, people, because we are like already moving at lightning speed. So this year is going to be a great year. Don't get too lazy. Don't get complacent. That's where the action where you're just going to stop. Use that energy to get rid of and simplify. Really start to look at the gems of what's important in your life and get rid of all of the other stuff. I'm also thinking that it's a really great year to focus on sustainability and eco. And I have a thing that I call design it with you, because I'm seeing in the world an awful lot of people, you know, as a professional interior designer that has been doing this for 3 decades. 3 decades ago, people wanted you to do everything for them, like everything. I just took it over and did the whole project. We live in a world, because of technology, where people have access to Google to figure all these things out, right? Barbara, what animal are you?
Goat.
You're a goat.
Oh.
Is it what?
That's why we're good friends.
Yes.
Yeah, Barbara and
Why
I.
you
We
go?
always love each other very much. The
Horse.
goat and the horse, yeah.
Yeah, best buddies.
Yes.
You're
Yeah,
not in the horse?
yeah.
You're the horse?
Yeah.
So Barbara, you're
I
gonna
was
need to
thinking
sign
of
up on my
goat.
list back there, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send you as a free gift
Oh my
a
God.
analysis of all of the animals, what your animal is, and how it's going to relate to this year's animal. So it will just be a bit of fun for you to understand what your character is compared to the character of the year.
What's everybody else's? You went through that already?
Yes, we did. But you can watch this video later.
This one?
Yes.
I didn't know that she was a goat, so I have a picture
Well,
of a goat at my yeah.
Nice.
Because that's my best friend, and I don't have friends who are goats.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
so great.
No,
Yes,
no,
I mean, I
it's
love
just
the fact that you're completely aware of this. It's, yeah, it's so great. So
hang out
the
with you,
simplification,
Thank you.
the simplification of this year is going to be great
Okay, I know.
to do, because the year is slowed down and you have the process to do it. But as a designer, it's also kind of this interesting thing where I'm recognizing more and more people want to do it themselves. Technology has given them a tool, but they need some help along the way of actually doing it. So I have got, the design it with you, where I hold people's hands kind of to help them, guide them through the process. But I've always been a fan of DIY. I personally love a hardware store. I love going and having a hardware store, and I love banging tools. It's crazy how many tools I actually have. So I really believe in it. This is the year, pick up the projects and do it yourself. Repurpose things, upgrade things, redo your sofa, paint your walls, have an art project, allow yourself to get into stuff and make your home your home. It's not necessarily about high-end luxury as much as it's actually about being personalization and coziness and connected with your stuff and your space. It's a very different energy to think about your home from a perspective of a yin earth pig. It's about cozy, it's about function, it's about get rid of the stuff.
Clutter.
Yeah, you really do not want clutter in a money space. Really don't. It will stick to you, and it will slow you down, and you will start to feel that. So all of these tips kind of work well together as well, right? So I'm saying stay in action is going to help you with the simplification, right? And then the simplification is going to help you stay in action. There is another big thing that's happening in the world that I find really fascinating. And the fourth tip is be diverse. Diversification in your life. So I'm pretty sure you're all aware of what's going on in the world. We were talking about this at the beginning, that right now the world is in some massive weird stuff. Right? We've got the stuff going on in France, we've got the stuff that's going on in Brazil, we've got the stuff that's going on with Brexit in the UK, we've got the stuff that's going on with the wall here in the US, right? We've got some weird stuff that's happening. And so the political stuff that is going on in the world and the diversification or the separation between people and the fact that people are getting very freaked out. Globally, we are getting freaked out. That's going to continue. Can't say that that's going to go away. The energy of the yin pig is not going to change. Some of these things are in motion and are a much bigger picture. And there's definitely signs that the financial world is not going to be particularly stable. Interestingly enough, there was predictions that this was coming, but the predictions of these things are always general. You don't necessarily know. I mean, I'm not a psychic, right? I'm reading some signs, I do my research, I really talk to a lot of my gurus and find what we think are gonna be the energy things, but kind of just across the board, people, we are not looking at a really fiscally healthy future. Financial system of the world is a little broken, and it hasn't been working for a while. Really great, right? There's a lot of inflation going on. There's a lot of different things. We've had crises in the last 10 years. So you just need to be diverse. Diversification. Simplification is also good. Less is more. You don't need to go that whole way. The DIY is not necessarily only about saving money and repurposing, but it is about kind of pulling yourself back and having a groundedness of what's really important, slowing down enough to evaluate what it is that you need, and going back to some very old, ancient, waste not, want not type of thoughts. And with a diversification, I say extremes are never good, right? They're just not. You really don't want anything to be too hot or too cold, right? Those are the three bears, right? You always want the thing in the middle. Make sure that with your friends, with your money, with your job, you diversify. So do not put all your eggs in one basket. I'm getting a lot of signs that that is not a good idea. And that, like I said, is money, but it's also friendships and relationships. And that is friendships and people who get into a new relationship and then don't talk to any of their friends. Like you lose all your girlfriends because you've got a new boyfriend. You know, the person that completely shuts everybody out. You get a new job and you stop talking to everybody else and you're working too hard. None of that is healthy, ever. But it's definitely this year something you do not want to do. The pig is a happy guy. He wants to bring luck to you. So you have to stay on task. You need to be positive to get the luck of the pig. If you are walking around in a black hole, there is no way that luck is going to touch you. And that's an interesting thing, right? That's the cart and the horse, right? You think, oh, I need luck. Woe is me, I need luck. But if you are that, the pig's luck is going to wash right over you. You're not going to get any of it. It will not stick to you. So be a happy-go-lucky, believe in the good things, and the luck is going to come to you. So we've got stay in action, build a community, simplify, and diversify. And, oh yeah. And you're going to hear this because a lot of these cross over a little bit. It's about balance. Okay? Think about the pig. Right? You don't want to be piggy. Right? It is not a good year to be piggy. It ties into some of the other things, but it's really important to start thinking about balance and harmony and not being piggy, not being selfish, not being ungenerous. So you want to make sure that you balance your world. It would be a really great year to do things with other people. It would be a really good year to make sure that you pay back all the debts.
I'm doing that. I'm paying all my credit card debt this month.
So it's about balance.
This month, I'm
That's so great. Wow, you are kicking the year
I know.
off with
I
a
know.
great bang.
She'll start a good new year like that.
Oh, I have
She'll
to.
feel
I'm
great,
overwhelmed.
you know.
Yes, and the balance this year is really important because the energy of the pig could go one way or the other. And this is another really important thing. So I'm giving you these 5 tips. The reason I give you these 5 tips is because if you don't do these things, the energy of the year has the possibility of being bad, right? And your interaction with it is very much a part of what is going to happen in your life, right? So how are you going to...
Things are called? The 5
The 5 tips that Lee is giving
energy
you.
of the year?
The five things, I'm giving you 5 tips that based on my analysis and my research of what I think with this year you should do in order to make this the best year ever. And your participation in it is really important because if you don't participate in it, things just happen to you and therefore you have no control over it. So that's kind of important in regards to the pigginess and to the greed and to the not having things being in balance. You have to take control. You know, you have to recognize the bigger picture of things. Sustainability is one of my, my favorite things. I'm a really passionate person about sustainability, and I've been a passionate person for sustainability for a very, very long time, way before it was trendy, right?
We
You
went
know-
to that talk of yours.
Hmm?
We went to your
I know,
talk
I'm so
when you
good
did
with
that.
my, yeah. But I've been doing the talks for the last couple of years, but I've always been a sustainable designer because the interior design in the construction industry is the number one, we make the most rubbish that goes into landfill than any other industry in the entire world. It's something like 100 million tons go into landfill every year just in the UK. I don't even want to know what it is in the United States. So as a result of that, when I started being a designer 30 years ago, I was like, holy moly, that's terrifying. So I was like, well, that's easy. We'll just design sustainably, right? So I'm really passionate about that. But the funny thing about it is what's going on with the changing of the climate and all of this kind of stuff. A lot of it is common sense if you just look at it. Plastic is actually bad for you. How wonderful is this?
Yeah, metal, yeah.
Okay? I love where we are right now. We are in WeWork's office space, and they are committed to sustainability. They changed all their plastic cups to these reusable metal cups. Yay!
Yeah.
Right? So this is the type of thing I think when I say that the fifth thing you should do this year is about balance, that ties into being sustainable. That ties into looking at balance and harmony in your life and your impact on the world. Because it's not like you live in a vacuum, people. Everything about you affects everybody else. That butterfly effect. And you pretend that it doesn't. That goes back to the community. That's not true. You don't live in an isolated igloo all by yourself, right? Everything about your energy and your presence affects and touches everybody else. We are completely interconnected. So this year, that balance and harmony is about making sure you recognize that interconnection and you start breaking some of those bad habits and you start doing things that are just more sustainable on all levels. And I do what I do because I love what I do, but I do this just as much for me because I need to be reminded about this. I get a Feng Shui consultation done every year because I can't do it for myself, right? So I'm not standing up here preaching to you guys, telling you, that I never use plastic and you shouldn't. But I'm gonna say we need to make those steps one step at a time, consistently, and then it's gonna actually, the power of the tipping point will all start to happen. That's a great book if you've never read it. It's a very powerful book because that would talk about keeping things in motion. Small steps going in the right direction will win at the end of the day. And so the balance and harmony, I would also say, if you haven't had a space clearing or Feng Shui consultation or a rearrangement, and it doesn't need to be with me, it can be with anybody. You can do it yourself. But I think this is the year to look at your space from a balance perspective. For those of us that just had a space clearing renovation thing is a little bit different, but it's an opportunity that you need to do on a regular basis. And here is also something that I'm gonna say, horrifying to say this, that everything changes every year. So energetically, you do need to look at things again and again. So it's not like you do it once and then you're never for the rest of your life ever gonna need to change it. I'm thinking that the speed in which our world has operated is increasing. So our grandparents, things were significantly slower than they are today. And that also is the invisible energy of the way things are going. That's why we also are all feeling the benefit of the yin, earth, because yin and earth are more grounded and slower. Right? So it's just, we're all feeling the positive shift as it's coming up because the Chinese New Year is in a week, not even. I'm thinking, is it next Tuesday?
Yes.
The 5th, is that Tuesday? So yeah, we had 6 days. So we're really feeling the final remnants of that dang dog year. We're out of that year and shifting into it, and it's quite a big shift. As with all transitions don't happen like this. There's a little bit of space in between. Between now and a week later, we get about 2 weeks where you're going to really start to feel the energy shifting before you actually get the full power of the yin pick year. So we've got those 5 tips to make 2019 your best year. Does anybody want to remind me what those 5 things are? Tell me.
I wrote it all down.
That's good.
Well, to be exact, the first one is stay in motion.
Yeah.
The second is create a sense of community, surrounded by the people that have your back.
Great.
Simplicity, get rid of stuff.
Yep.
Fourth is be diverse. And fifth is balance.
Nice.
Balance and harmony.
We balance and harmony.
Now, we celebrated the the New Year's Eve ball drop, with Waterford on the 27th. But before that, in between and after, the 2019, it was Gift of Harmony.
Oh, really?
The Waterford ball, the New Year's Eve ball drop.
The Gift of Harmony. Wow, that's great.
That was the theme,
So you just said that.
That's fabulous. Wow, that's so interesting. I love that. I love the kind of synergy of how something like that happens, because my stuff, I go into my little bubble, I do my stuff, I talk to my gurus, I do my research, I go into my meditation, and I come up with what I think are going to be the 5 tips
Well,
for the
that's
year
good.
to do every year. And I think it's important, and from my own experience, the more I do this, as I started off the conversation, I have one foot in the Western world and one foot in the Eastern world. But I'm weighing more on a lot of these ancient traditions. Our ancient traditions, because they're weighted in something that is bigger than us. There's a real power to the invisible. And if we actually put our intention towards making the world a better place, one space at a time, and focusing on how we interact with it, we can change the entire vibration. My big passion is to remind more and more people that our spaces impact the way we show up in the world. And if you recognize and remember that our spaces impact the world, that aha is going to change the outside world, because then you're going to see that there's an interconnection that's inherent, and all the disconnect is going to start to dissolve. And then sustainability is going to become the norm again, because you're not going to want to hurt yourself, and you wouldn't want to hurt other people. And the moment you recognize that, it's going to become really obvious. So does anybody have any specific questions about the pig, or?
Well, it's probably more individual too. How is the pig year for a horse, for the fire horse?
Yes. Well, I'm going to say if you want to sign up for that document, I'm going to send that to you, because that gives them more detail specifically. Well, and that's going to be the general horse. It's not going to be necessarily the fire horse here.
Okay.
How the horse will be interacting with the pig this year, or how the monkey is going to be interacting with the pig, or the tiger. It's kind of interesting to see how the different animals do it. So Pat, this is probably a little bit, about the Chinese New Year in general, but I gave you kind of an overview. Was there anything that you needed more clarity in regards to the way that the Chinese system is? I'm trying to make it really user friendly, because
I really don't know. I'm just curious, it's funny how my observation is so far that I went into this year wanting to clean everything out and to simplify and to declutter. I mean, I didn't, without even knowing that was what this year was supposed to, how it's kind of unfolding and what it's supposed to be.
Well, those are my recommendations. Those are my recommendations on how to maximize this.
It's
Maybe
incredible.
that was also something intuitive.
Yeah,
Totally.
Intuitively, she
That
felt
you needed
that,
to do.
and that's
Yeah.
why you did that.
No, I did.
right?
So, I
Without
mean, it's
knowing.
incredible how it all makes sense when I'm hearing you talk. I'm like, oh yeah.
It's great because we've been working together for, I'm going to say probably almost 2 years,
Yeah,
and
it's
we're
been a
coming
long
to the
time.
end of your project. But it is fabulous for me to hear that your intuition was so strong
Yeah.
that you picked up 3 of my 5
I know, it's
tips
incredible.
that we didn't even talk
It's
about.
probably even more if
I know,
I think about it.
right?
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, was there any of the tips, any of those 5 things that didn't make sense for you guys? No. I mean, they're all good ideas. I mean, there's obviously
The
20
good
things. we
ideas,
should-
I think no matter what year
Right.
we were in, everyone here would agree that those are 5 things we should be looking at.
Absolutely, totally. They're good behaviors. They're good ways of looking at it.
So
But it
let
is-
me ask you something. What do you think about the significance of mud? So this pig is an earth pig, but pigs in general are the water element.
Yes.
So the whole idea of this being a muddy year, you think that is tied to the financial situation that we have to look forward to now, because nothing is on firm ground anymore?
I think that absolutely.
And I think that's how people are thinking.
And I
No
think
one
it's
is
the
sure.
truth.
Well, I think it is also. I do too.
Yeah, I think that that's a great representation of saying it. We are going into murky waters, right? And this is one of the things is that being aware, diversification, because you don't know where you're going to need to grab onto, is a really good thing to be taking into consideration. Also, keeping yourself in motion, because murky waters can actually start to get stagnant, and that can cause illness. So you want to make
be
sure.
able to swim.
Exactly. And it is the pig year has opportunities to be good almost every year, right? But these are the things that are this year based on the elements. It really does change. A fire pig would be a very different year, right? It would be a completely different animal.
In other words, 12 years ago, what pig was that a fire pig 12 years ago?
To be honest with you, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
remember either.
Yeah, but the elements do go into a specific sequence, right? They're gonna go into a sequence. You know, the 60 stems and
Right, yeah,
branches
yeah,
are
I
a very
know.
specific sequence. So just so you guys are all clear, so there's a pig year, and this year's the earth pig year. There will have be every 12 years there will be a fire pig year, there will be a water pig year, there will be a metal pig year, there will be a wood pig year, and next year, 2020, is the beginning of the 12-year cycle. So the pig is the end of the 12-year cycle, the last animal in the 12-year cycle. So there's a big shift that's about to happen. Next year will be the year of the rat, and it's going to be the metal rat. And that starts a totally different energy on multiple levels. One, because obviously we're going from earth to metal, we're going from a pig to rat. A
Also
lot
going
of
to a brand
energy.
new cycle, the end of 12 years, so now you start a new 12-year.
Exactly. So there is a brand new, there's a closing of a chapter that's happening this year. A big closing of a chapter and a brand new one that's starting. So that's another reason that this year would also be good. When you're doing the simplification, you're doing the decluttering, you're doing all of this, you're going to be evaluating everything. Planning, the plan, when I said stay in action, plan, keep going forward, that's also looking past just the first, this year. Next year will be another massive shift of a year. But you can come and talk to me this time next year to hear a little bit more about the metal rat year.
Well, I'm setting the groundwork. I mean, my intention going into this year was to set the groundwork for the rest of my life.
Yes.
Like what this space, what Lee designed for me is incredible. And it's helped me completely clarify how I want to go forward.
Yeah, we figured
And
out
she'll
the
see it for
vision.
the first time. She'll see
Yeah,
it
that
finished.
must feel great.
What do you mean?
Yeah. We created the vision for what she wanted
Well,
the
I
rest
am
of her
now.
life
I'm
to
in the
feel like,
process of
and then we
changing it
designed a
right
space
now.
to do that.
I just
Is
moved
that
back
here
in.
in New York?
And that
What was that?
helped me catapult.
Yeah. Yeah, in
No,
Greenwich
it helped me
Village.
catapult everything else. in
I
my
do
life.
my work
Yeah.
distance-wise,
Yeah.
so with the project was going on, but I can work distance. Interestingly enough, my intuition's pretty
I'm
strong.
sorry?
Do you have pictures?
Not really. No,
We are
Lee's
doing a
gonna actually
photo
take
shoot.
pictures on
Monday.
pre-shoot
Oh,
because it's not quite finished yet.
Yeah.
She'll see. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
still little things that have to be done, but it's
great.
gorgeous. Everybody
And
that
then
goes
it's
in
gonna
it says,
feel really
"I just don't
good,
like it.
yeah.
I love it." You know, I mean,
That's
the
so
reaction
nice.
I've gotten has been
Fantastic.
unbelievable.
I-
Yeah,
Well, I think it is a very strong representation of your joy.
yeah.
Your happy,
Oh,
sophisticated,
I'm
joyful.
very happy. I have a fireplace now, and I put the fire, and I'm a fire person, and I put the fire on in the fireplace, and I sit there and I just smile from ear to ear.
That's
It's
Yeah.
just great.
I can't wait.
I know, it's really great. It's really great.
Yeah, and well, it was an
And all the
honor to go through
materials
the
are just give me constant joy. They really do. The materials that Lee picked out for me are incredible. You know, they really are.
I can't wait to see them
What do
all
you mean
together.
by
Yeah.
materials?
Oh, slate and the slate is amazing. It's behind my.
One of the backsplash is slate, and the other one is
And-
actually a handmade glass tile that is done by an artist in California, where she puts pieces of metallic and other things in it, and it's got this very
gold leaf,
three-dimensional
like literally gold leaf,
flow in it.
and like
Almost has like a water.
natural
with-
materials behind the glass. It almost looks like where she got inspired from was a cracked bus stop. You know, the tempered glass when you crack it, it doesn't crack, but the interior is all
like almost
All
like
completely, like small little
snowflakes
breaks.
or yeah. Like
And
snow-
it's incredible.
so beautiful.
I mean, now I'm sorry that we didn't raise the cabinets a little more so I had more of that. But it's so beautiful, you know. And then the marble she picked out was incredible. And then it's a textured marble, not a typical marble with the veins running through it, you know, not the super shiny stuff. It's very textured, very real, very, very comfortable for me. And then the other part of the kitchen counter is this gorgeous, it was a felled tree walnut that my contractor is a great mill worker. Wait till you see it.
I know.
I mean, it's just amazing. Wait till you see it.
So Barbara, to answer, when you work with me, I come up with like a kind of color palette, and it's like a big board of all these different things. So we have the different tiles and the different woods and the different marbles and the different metal pieces that were going to go on it, and then the custom color for the cabinets and what the floor was going to be and what the paint was going to be. And it just looks like this big, gorgeous piece of artwork in and of itself. My girlfriend Faye, my client Faye, we have it on the table, and she's like, I'm not sure I'm going to live without this board. With all these beautiful pieces here. It's going to be in my space, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to let go of that. So that's the material board, which is fun. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's really great.
You did a board for her.
Well, I didn't actually. I mean, you collect the pieces.
Oh, yeah.
I have done boards in the past. I'm a little bit more freeform these days. You know, so great though. So thank you guys for coming and hearing what my suggestions are. It's really nice to know that my belief that we can change our lives by manipulating our environments. Right? This is what Feng Shui is about. Feng Shui is about making sure that you mindfully, consciously, intelligently figure out how to interact with your space for optimum health, happiness, clarity. Honestly, great Feng Shui is great interior design. It's great architecture. It's all the same thing. We just use different language in regards to it. And we also talk in the Eastern world, and in Feng Shui, we talk a lot more about the invisible stuff, because gosh knows, in the Western world, we don't want to really believe that there is any, stuff that's out there that you can't see. But we all know that there's a lot of stuff that you can't see, like friendship and love and electricity and that technology that's beaming at me right now that is invisible, but is doing something, right? So there's an awful lot of invisible stuff that we have the power to change. And changing our space changes our life. And I'm really happy to help people do that. I'm really honored by being able to do this for people because it's so much fun.
I know.
It's so much fun. And I'm going to just make an announcement. I won an award.
Oh, I saw that
I
today.
saw that.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Yes.
congrats.
What kind of award?
I am Feng Shui designer, best Feng Shui designer of New York.
Oh my
2019. It's kind of freaky because the last year was one of the hardest years for me, and I stopped working for 6 months. On a personal note, because some of you know this, I had a couple of very dear friends of mine die tragically, and then my cat died, and it broke my heart, and I just was not capable of doing anything. I had to go into that moment of serious grief, which is what I was saying. I warned people about the energy of 2018 and said, don't let that happen to you, and it completely swallowed me. So I didn't work a lot. And I worked some, but not a lot. Actually, interestingly enough, Pat's project got put on hold by the universe for 6 months.
Yeah.
And it was just when I was waking up that we were able to do.
That was
So it was a
incredible.
perfect alignment.
Yeah.
But what makes me feel so very excited at this moment and so honored is that somehow I got recognized by a magazine, Home and Gardens and Build magazine, which I write articles for Build all the time about materials and about things that I'm doing research because I'm a bit of a nerd and I really like this stuff. But it was so nice to actually get that because I don't do this for me, I mean, obviously I get pleasure out of it, but my pleasure is from the satisfaction of changing people's lives. So, yeah, it was very exciting.
Plus, look at her water bottle, her swell bottle.
I know, that's so nice.
Now look at the color. And your
Yeah.
dress.
yeah.
Oh!
Yes, yeah.
This is
Yes.
one of my favorite colors.
Yeah, that's so great. And this is a sustainable piece. This is made in Africa. In all the fabrics they're cotton and they're made in a company here, and it's all the same style, the exact same. They have
Almost
one
looks like a
style.
Marimekko.
It's really
Isn't it
fabulous.
totally great?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so so I thought I was supporting Africa
Colors are
and looking
beautiful.
really great. I know, I should be having your water bottle. Maybe you should be
I
giving me
know.
my water bottle. Okay, thank you so much. So anybody else? I mean, I'm feeling like I'm talking with my best friends in my living room with just the odd camera.
That happens to be there, recording you.
Well, actually, this piggy is gonna do me good.
You know,
Really well. I
yeah.
needed to slow down.
Yeah, me
I
too.
think last year, the year before that, everything was rush, rush, rush.
totally.
And I was like in limbo. You saw me.
I
and
know.
was like, I don't know what to do.
Well, you know, it was a massive
I was-
change, right?
Yeah,
Someone
I was
important.
just in limbo. I was like, you have to take over. I was just like,
You know, we live in a world also, which is interesting. So last year, 2 people in my life died, tragically, completely unexpected. A 49-year-old friend in January and a 51-year-old friend in February. Completely rocked my world, right? Of course it did. You know, death is a part of life.
Yes.
But what it really made me recognize was that we live in a world that has disassociated ourselves with death. Because, gosh, it's dirty and it's bad, and we kind of want to pretend that we're all going to be young and beautiful for the rest of our lives. Like there is like, no, we want to just forget all the dirty, murky stuff that happens in life. And honestly, people, that comes with the individualistic, the solo where money makes you happy. All these things are an illusion that are not the truth. And one of the things that I'm committed to going forward is starting to make grief, dying, death be a part of our normal conversation again. Because guess what, people? We're all dying. And someone we love is going to die at some point if you haven't already had it. And when it happens, it rocks your world, right, darling? And you need to then reach out to someone and ask for help in the areas that you need to. Because not only do you lose their presence in your life, you have to deal with all their stuff.
I still have. That's
I don't-
why the piggy is good this year.
Exactly, so you can slow down and ground yourself. And we did a renovation of her mother's property after her mom passed, and we were able to do all of that clearing, that energetic and physical clearing, and getting that, so that's a beautiful property for you now. And now you can just let it go. I mean,
Need help? I mean, I was like, just get rid of everything. Everything.
Yeah.
You know? I was like, you pick. You do the picking.
yeah, well, you know, you gave me the vision. You and your daughter were able to decide what you wanted to do, and then it was easy. When you come up with a vision of what you want a space to feel like, it actually is really easy for me to figure it out. You know, and I find it really funny.
The hard part was when the delivery was coming. There was so much problems with the delivery.
The
Everything-
complication
Yeah.
of a project is that we forget that there's a lot of steps that take place to do a renovation. A lot of hand-holding taking place in regards to what needs to be done to get from A to B, B to C, et cetera, et cetera. It's a lot of work. Don't think the interior design industry has done itself a great service, because we kind of pretended that it was really easy and it was all smoke and mirrors, and we hid a lot of it. The architects did that, and then the designers did that, and that doesn't serve anybody, because then you pretend that it's easy and everybody thinks it's easy. You know, right now I do an awful lot of design it with you, helping people who think they can do it on their own and realize it's a really lot of work, people. And I also say I've been doing this for 30 years. Every single project that I learn something new on it. And if I do this for a living, and I have so many degrees you don't want to know. You know, I'm like the best of the best. I love learning. So, you know, a 5-year degree in interior architecture. I'm lead AP in, leadership and environmental. I'm a Feng Shui with a grandmaster, blah, blah, blah. And I still make mistakes. Just what we need to do. But the conversation about recognizing time is limited and death is a part of life because it's actually a cycle, I think is really important. And I think it would motivate people to act differently in their spaces and let go a lot of their stuff that they think is actually going to
I'm
make their
so
time
afraid
happier.
about death. I mean, like, so, well, not for me, but like, for example, if my mom was to go, I don't want to even think about it. I think about my world will be like done. I don't
No,
know.
you know what's interesting?
awful,
Your
yeah.
world will radically shift when your mom is no longer physically on this planet.
I'm
present
afraid
with you.
about that moment.
And you know what? That's an honest feeling to have. When my mom died 25 years ago, I remember waking up the next morning and that is exactly what I said. The world is irrevocably changed. It will never be the same. And 25 years later, I still feel that way. I still miss my mom. But she's with me, right? It took me a long time to actually realize that. You know, true love is not always just physically there. Deep conversations, meaning of life. But it's supposed to happen. Right now, my boyfriend's mother is on her deathbed. And I'm helping him transition her and her transition too. And she got diagnosed a year ago and we've had a wonderful last year. You know, we never expected it to last this long. We keep having these really fabulous magic moments where she's her best and they're not fighting anymore. And, you know, we got to celebrate her 80th birthday and we were there for Christmas and it's beautiful. And I keep saying, how wonderful is this? And she's dying before you, right? That's the cycle. It is the cycle. It's not, you know, we live in a world where we pretend that we're gonna live forever. And we aren't, and they're not supposed to. Not unless you become a vampire.
I want to be a vampire.
Yeah, I don't want to be a vampire either. Not unless it was Raul Julia. I saw him on Broadway when I was a kid. Fabulous.
Very dapper.
Oh, so dapper.
Yeah,
I know.
What was that?
Raul Julia was he Mexican? Was he
No,
Spanish?
I think
Puerto Rican. Oh, he was like sex on wheels.
Yeah.
I was way too young to really understand what it was all about, but God, I'm just enough to know.
Yeah.
Ooh, ha la la la, I want to be a vampire. Well, thank you guys. I wish you the best of luck. Sign up, put your emails there because I'm going to send you the information on your specific 13 things to do to bring in luck and what your animal is going to do with Piggy this year. And you know, there's some wine there, people.
Okay.
And most of you guys already have books and stuff, but if you do, I wrote 3 books that are all about Feng Shui and home stuff.